Hey YouTube, Zack Henderson here, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to do kettlebell swings, tell you what they're good for, and show you some common mistakes and how to fix them. Dan John calls the kettlebell swing the fat-burning athlete builder, and once you understand the intricacies of this exercise, you'll understand why. As a hip hinge movement, the swing targets the hamstrings, glutes, spinal erectors, lats, and upper back. And when you swing the way I'm going to teach you, you'll also get tremendous engagement from the quads, core, and pecs as well. The swing is a perfect combination of dynamic power, tightness, and fluidity. In addition to targeting practically every muscle in your body, the swing can also be performed cyclically, like classic endurance exercises like jogging, swimming, or obviously cycling. And this is why the swing strengthens your heart and lungs just as much as your glutes and abs. Now, in my experience, the kettlebell swing can be a tricky thing to teach, even to advanced lifters. The swing itself is relatively simple, but there's a lot of detail that goes into maximizing the swing for both performance and safety. Plus, you can't simply stop in the middle of a rep to correct an issue. Once you start swinging, any adjustments have to be made on the fly. That's why it is absolutely crucial to have a clear understanding of the swing and a step-by-step formula to work up to it. With that, let's take a look at the sequence that I take new students through to make the learning process as seamless and efficient as possible. Let's start with the kettlebell deadlift. Stand over the bell so your ankle bones line up with the handle. Place your heels about hips width apart, toes turned slightly out. With a neutral spine, push the hips back, getting a good stretch in the hamstrings. The knees will bend, but try to keep the shins vertical. The feet should remain rooted with equal pressure through the big toe, little toe, and heel. Once you reach the handle, stiffen the triceps to keep the arms straight and pull the shoulders down, not back, to properly engage the lats. Squeeze the glutes to extend the hips, and the knees will naturally straighten out. Stand tall with total body engagement, being mindful not to lean back and hyperextend. Push your hips back and return the bell to the ground. Keep your gaze on the horizon at all times. This will naturally have you looking slightly up at the bottom and straight ahead at the top. Getting your hip hinge pattern dialed in is absolutely crucial for a strong and safe kettlebell swing. Now, after getting comfortable with the deadlift, I suggest practicing the belly hinge to really fine-tune the engagement of the posterior chain and your ability to brace through the core. The belly hinge is an awesome exercise in its own right and deserves more attention than what I can give it here in this video. So do be sure to check out the full video lesson linked here. Next up, we'll add horizontal movement with the drag deadlift. The role of the lats in the swing cannot be overstated. And this deadlift variation teaches you how to use the lats in order to control the kettlebell. Stand at arm's length away from your bell. Hinge the hips and reach out to grab the handle. Tip the bell towards you, grip tight, and drag the kettlebell towards you using just the lats. Keep pulling until the bell reaches the original deadlift start position. If you continue to really flex through the lats, the kettlebell might even float up off the ground. And now we'll add some ballistic intention with the hike pass. The hike is essentially the faster flying version of the drag deadlift. The goal here is to take the kettlebell from the ground to the backswing position with the outer forearms in contact with the upper inner thighs. Set up as before and use the lats and triceps to pull the kettlebell off the floor and push it back past the groin. Stay in a deep hinge stance and be careful not to raise the hips. Allow the kettlebell to swing back to the starting position. The hike is how you'll load the hips for all ballistic lifts. It's like pulling the bowstring before launching the arrow. Getting a consistent hip hinge position and hike pass is half the battle with the swing. The rest is all about snapping the hips forward and achieving a strong, rock-solid lockout with total body tension. To dial in the feeling of a tight swing lockout, we're actually going to step away from the kettlebell for a minute and practice the yang plank. Set the feet about hips width apart and hands close to approximate the stance of the top of a kettlebell swing. Drive the heels back, flex the quads, glutes, and abs tight. Stiffen the triceps and pull the shoulders down to engage the lats. At this point, you should be shaking from the tension, but stay relaxed in your face. This is what you want to feel at the top of every kettlebell swing. Hold for just 10 to 15 seconds at a time, as that is all you will need. Now that we've dialed in the hike pass and lockout, all that's left is extending the hips and launching the kettlebell. We'll bring everything together with the dead stop swing. Basically, you will perform a swing 1 rep at a time, returning the bell to the ground between each rep. Set up for the hike pass as before, and this time, once the bell is high into the backswing, squeeze the glutes to extend the hips. Stand straight up with a tight core and engage the quads by thinking about pulling your kneecaps up to the groin. Allow the kettlebell to float anywhere between belly and chest height. Keep the triceps engaged to maintain straight arms, but do not lift the kettlebell with the shoulders. As the bell falls, guide and push it back into the hips with the lats. Use that lat and tricep strength to decelerate the bell and return it back to the ground. And that is the swing in a nutshell. Once you dial in loading and exploding the hips for single reps, you can start stringing them together for 5 to 10 reps at a time. Cyclical swings are performed with all the same basic techniques you've learned up to this point. This time, instead of resting the kettlebell between each rep, simply continue the hip hinge and extension for the desired number of reps. On your last swing, catch the kettlebell into the backswing to decelerate, park it, and rest. And there you have it. As you can see, once you've mastered the basics of the hip hinge and standing plank tension, the swing can come together with minimal fuss. Now, simple though the swing may seem, there are plenty of ways to screw it up, or at least shortchange the results you could otherwise be getting. So here are a few of the most common kettlebell mistakes I see and the simple solutions to fix them. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see in the kettlebell swing is simply the lifter hinging the hips too early on the way back, which puts extra leverage on the low back. So as the bell is coming down, you'll oftentimes see the hinge start to happen here, where there's still slack, and then the weight ends up yanking you forward. So the solution is very simple. It's training patience in the backswing. So just imagine the bell coming down, 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 and you keep posture until the arms reconnect with the torso, and then make that hinge. So quite simply, what we can do here, obviously without weight, is just trace what a kettlebell swing pattern should look and feel like. So you notice I'm waiting till the hips extend to let the arms float forward, and then I'm waiting until the arms reconnect to catch and hinge. So you can do that a little robotic here to start, and then flow with it. And then obviously over the course of time, you can speed that up, and practicing that without a weight a few times will really help translate when you pick your kettlebell up again. The next big mistake is simply a matter of timing. So specifically timing the exhalation with the swing. So a lot of times you will see the lifter extend the hips, and then once the bell reaches approximately chest height, you'll get the or the exhale or the or whatever the breathing pattern entails. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world, but by exhaling at the top of the swing, you're really missing an opportunity to really power the hips and to drive extra engagement through the core. So again, what I might recommend is practicing without weight, at least a few times to start, and time the exhalation with the hip snap. So that will be So if you're not used to this, it may feel like you're exhaling early, but you're really not. So again, you can see how this drill plays right off of our previous one, where you can really fine-tune these details without even using any weight. All right, so the final mistake that we see all the time in the kettlebell swing is really just a simple tendency to drive the hips forward of the torso, hyperextending through the low back. Obviously not something that we want. Now, this is perfectly understandable because we're always thinking about driving hard power through the hips, but we don't want to let that go too far. So when we stand up at the top of the swing, we want to think about quads, glutes, and abs, giving us a perfectly vertical posture. Now, one way that we can train ourselves to feel that vertical posture is just to have some sort of tactile feedback on our back when we're swinging. Now, if you've got a training partner, they can simply hold their hand right behind your back so that when you come up, they can kind of give you a little tap if you're leaning too far back. If you don't have a training partner, you can just find something ideally hanging up around shoulder height. Obviously, I have a TRX strap here. You could tie a resistance band around a power rack. There's lots of ideas here, but the idea is you want to be able to set up to where you can lightly make contact with whatever your point of tactile feedback is, and then practice the hinge or the swing and stand. So if you're making light contact, you know it's all good. If you make heavy contact, you know that you're extending a little bit too far backwards. So to double check yourself, you want to make sure that you have something to give you a little love tap on your back to keep you perfectly vertical. And honestly, this is something that I see even experienced kettlebell lifters falling into. So do not think that you are above this drill, because honestly, it's something that I still practice all the time. Hey, thanks for watching the video. And if you would like a resource that integrates all of this information, you'll definitely want to check out Kettlebell Foundations, which is my instruction manual and training program for beginner to intermediate kettlebell lifters. Do give the video a thumbs up if you feel it deserves it. All the best in your training, and we'll see you in the next video.